Okay. Hey, good morning, everybody on YouTube. Ginger here with Lisa Pizik doing the Not So Secret Ingredient Show in my kitchen. I felt that was appropriate this time because, you know, it's the Not So Secret Ingredient. And there's lots of ingredients. You can even see my spice shelves back there, my fine sous chef. And yeah. Yeah, what's going on with you this morning, Lisa?
I am tying up some loose ends with some client work. Excellent. And we are actually going away. A little local 2-hour way in the mountain resort. And we haven't been away since March, since the madness hit.
Away.
It's a lovely, beautifully, socially distant place. So
physically distant, socially connected.
Amen.
Right?
Physically distant.
Right. Good morning, everybody. Ginger here, Lisa Pizik at my side on the other side of the continent.
Okay, I'm going to get clicked in. Here we go. To Instagram. I'll put us on Facebook.
Yeah, I don't remember how we do that on Instagram, but good morning.
I just requested
you joined,
to be
wave.
live
I'm going
you.
to. How do I do
I
that?
like your teacup, G. That's beautiful.
Why, thank you. That is from my grandma. My grandma would, my grandfather was a pastor, and he traveled the world, and he would bring home teacups.
Oh, you're getting some feedback.
I am getting some feedback.
Live on Facebook.
All right.
Live
on Instagram. Live on YouTube.
Yep, live on Instagram. I'm turned down there. Look, this is so cool that we can broadcast.
I know. This is crazy. Cheers to modern technology, y'all. Whether it's 7 a.m. or 10 a.m. or 10 p.m., we're glad you're here for the Not So Secret Ingredient Show. And, you know, Lisa, this month we're talking about A words. Last week it was awareness, which was great. And you just said one A word. I don't think it's going to be our focus, but you said away. And I think that's an interesting word to sip on.
And I am pumped that we're talking about action today. Oh, this is my favorite. She's running in the kitchen. Do you see this? This is why I love her. There's no shortage of energy when the two of us get together.
That's right.
So pumped. Let's be talking action.
Let's dig in. The Not So Secret Ingredient Show. Welcome. Thank you for joining us. Do this every Thursday at 10 a.m. Eastern, 7 a.m. Western, Pacific. Like, why is it Eastern and not Western? Okay. Anyway, that doesn't make any sense for an ingredient, really. So let's talk action, because action's where it's at, Jackson. Dig in, LP.
I love talking about this because you often hear entrepreneurs, or really just anyone, I guess, business owners, entrepreneurs, anyone, you know, CEOs, employees, they're like, I'm stuck. I feel stuck. And the quickest way to get unstuck is to take action, is to move your way through it. You never know what the wrong thing is until you do it. You go, whoa, okay, I didn't get the outcome I wanted. Okay, now I got to pivot over this way, or now I got to go over this way.
Right, and the key to that.
So go ahead.
No, go ahead. Keep going.
I was going to say, we're so worried about making the wrong, failing, or making the wrong step, or doing the wrong thing, or things blowing up in our face, or we're so scared of the what ifs.
Right.
But I think the cost is too high if you don't. I think the not doing is so much more detrimental to your business and your life than the worrying about the what ifs and never doing.
And what if is one of the most powerful questions you can ask yourself, because it does promote action. If nothing else, it promotes thinking, and thinking is action, just a very different kind of action. So what would you say, Lisa, is the counterpart to the what ifs?
Why not?
But they're both in the forward. So maybe why? This is interesting. We just got into some quicksand, folks. Welcome to this not so secret ingredient where we're figuring stuff out, because why is so important. So why is not the opposite of what if or why not, because your why has a different purpose. Your why is your purpose, your vision. And you're right, with action, like, why not? Why, what if? Because that's that ... that you chase after that is the possibilities. That's where you have to take the action. So I'm going to ask you, as a business strategist, LP, when people say, when they hear you say, well, just take some action. Well, that sounds easy for you to say, but what is that? Let's crack that egg open, since we're in my kitchen. Let's crack that open and say, well, what does that mean to take action? Yeah, well, I don't know what to do is a common refrain when you say, well, just take action. Well, what does that mean? First of all, get rid of the just, because that's a qualifier. That's a limiter. You and I have talked about this. That's a bad secret ingredient. Get rid of that. Like, that's stale. Get that out of your cabinet and throw it away. So let's talk about, how do you take action? What are some actual things to move you?
I always go back to the L word. Maybe because my first name's Lisa. The L is, what do you love to do? For me, I love to speak. Put me on a video, put me on a stage, put me on a podcast.
That's true. You're really good at that.
Because I love it. I feel at home there. I feel alive there.
So what if I want to take action and I don't have a stage?
The beautiful thing is that the playing field is leveled. You used to have to pay to get on television. You used to have to pay to get on a stage. Well, I guess you can still technically pay to get on a stage. That is part of speaking. The playing field is level. If you have an iPhone, a computer, Zoom, the internet, you are TV broadcasting, per se. You are broadcasting.
Right. Right.
You have it there.
Right. So then the next, we're playing this lovely devil's advocate today, is that, okay, so I show up, nobody shows up. Is that a waste of my time? It didn't work because nobody showed up. Well, wait a minute, hang on, let's talk about that, because you and I both know that, first of all, you're gonna have some of that thinking that's gonna lead some different feeling, and we want that to propel you forward. So talk a little bit about the strategy of creating your own stage with this now, wide open playing fields that everybody can get on. So talk us through some of that, Lisa.
Everything that you do has to have a story and has to have a takeaway. We never want to be just, I'm not going to say just, right? You always catch me in that. We never want to be only motivational, because then people get rah, pumped up. Yes, I'm so excited. Let's go. Oh, shit, now what do I do?
Right.
Right? There's always got to be the, what do you go do?
Right.
Or if you get on and you just start telling people, do this, do that, step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4, they're like, who the F are you spewing this at me from the top of your mountain?
Right.
It's so easy for you. You almost place them in that defensive victim mode because they're not connected to you and they don't see that you struggled and you figured it out.
Right.
So there's no inspiration to go with that.
People need
everything has a story and teaching points.
Right. You're so right. So I love that you brought up motivation. So all y'all, thanks Appy for being here, Jody for being here, everybody else who's tuning in today to the Not So Secret Ingredient Show, Lisa Pizik, business strategist, myself, human connection expert, connectionologist. How's that? It's a little cumbersome, but okay. I used to call myself a solutionist, and I still like that. Anyway, what is it about action? That's what we're talking about today on the Not So Secret Ingredient Show. Short show every Thursday, 10 a.m. Eastern, 7 a.m. Western. I'm just going to adopt that. Pacific. See, let's see. Brussels, it's in the middle of the night. The UK, our friends are still, it's like 12, 11 o'clock at night in the UK. So sending tons of love that way too. Action, Jackson. It it's easy for you to say, it's easy to look at somebody and say, well, yeah, but they're already there. And there's a feeling of disconnect. Like, I know that you and we've had so many conversations, and we share some alignment in the fact that we realize that all this investment in self, dollars, time, energy, attention, effort, trying, iterating, reinventing, going back to the drawing board, starting over, trashing the thing we started, like, okay, that's not it. By the way, none of those are failures. Those are progress, because you're doing something. Those are action. So we love talking about action because it is such a profound piece of bringing your gifts to the world and helping people see what is possible. So Lisa, let's unpack how you get in motion. Like, let's go back several years to when you started getting in motion. You've taken a bunch of leaps. And let's talk about the leap that got you started to where you're at right now. What was the action you took? Because you told me part of the story. Talk about that, because that can feel big and scary.
This ties in so beautifully with what you teach, G-Master, about
You're so funny.
alignment and your why.
Okay.
If you're not making a move and you're not taking action, it's because your why ain't big enough.
Right.
Your why doesn't move you. You can look at other people and say, it's your fault. I invested in this person and I didn't get what I needed. Blame. I don't know how to do this. No one taught me. I didn't come from this background. I didn't
Right.
Instead of pointing that finger out, fingers out, you gotta point the finger back in. If you're not taking action, you're not moving, it's because your why ain't big enough.
Right. So
And that was for me.
Yeah.
After I had my son, and I became a mom, and I grew up being parented a certain way, where I had no choice. I was told who I would date, where I would go to school. I have a degree, and I worked as a nurse for a decade of my life, an ICU nurse, an emergency nurse.
Thank you for that.
Dream.
Yes.
And it taught me, it taught me so much about what really matters in this world. So again, even if you got into a profession or something where you learned and you lived and you experienced, that is never lost. There's so many pieces of nursing that come with me in the business strategy work that I do now.
Right.
I was a health and fitness coach at one time. There's so many things from the fitness world, and I know you've pivoted in many ways too. There's so many things I've taken from that world that make me a better strategist. But after I had my son, I realized that there was so much stake in the game, that there was so much personal responsibility to be a role model, to show up for my family, and you're looking perplexed.
I know I have a question. I'm going to try to hold it. Keep going.
And you don't get to go back.
No, you don't.
There are no do-overs when it comes to human relationships and lives and impressions and memories. There is no shoulda, coulda, woulda.
Right. Why then? This is the question for me at the moment.
Yeah.
Why was another human coming into your life that, whoop, here it goes. Why was that so different than doing it for yourself? What was the shift? Because clearly something shifted. Like, you were always good enough, and I know you went through some massive growth, but like Larry and I, for example, we've chosen to happily be by ourselves. And it's a very intentional choice, just like you having your son was very intentional. So what changed for you from going from fabulous Lisa and Eric to fabulous Lisa, Eric, and child?
I love that you said that, G, because your why is so personal to you. You brought that up. You and Larry in your marriage have different wants and wishes and needs, and Eric and I had different wants and wishes and needs, and that's amazing. Your why should never be someone else's why. And
Truth.
I realized that I heard this quote once that said, survivors of emotional abuse and people who deal with narcissistic parents and bipolar, mom and the whole thing, they don't stop loving their parents, they stop loving themselves.
Oh, whoa. Whoa, pause. Say that again.
When you've been with, or you've been raised around that emotional abuse or told you're not good enough, and you hear that on replay over and over and over again when it was someone strong, like a parent, or a coach, or a teacher, or somebody who was like, stable in your life, you saw and had great interactions with, you don't stop loving that person. You don't stop loving that parent. You stop loving yourself.
Is it a transference of belief then? You become so focused on the other person that you essentially lose yourself?
You lose yourself because you start speaking to yourself in a voice that is not yours. You start saying, I'm so stupid, I'm not good enough, I'll never succeed, I can't do it. Who am I to want these things? Action requires going bigger, wanting more. Who am I? I should be thankful for what I had. Who am I to want to make more money, make more impact?
Okay, so when you start hearing those, if you're tuning in for the Not So Secret Ingredient Show, Master Business Strategist Lisa Pezik and myself, Ginger Johnson, Human Connection Expert, we're talking about action and how to tune out the people who are telling you or the messages you're getting from people who may not be positive. The great thing, when you start hearing those, pause, recognize them, realize what they are. I know your signature story that people can hear if they go to lisapezik.com. Powerful story. We've all got stories. We've all got our own stories. There is no one story greater than another. Nobody's pain is greater than another. Your story is your story, just like you were saying earlier, LP. So when you start hearing those voices that are not productive, that are not helpful, that are not healthy, tune them out. Now, let's flip over, because we all had the great good fortune of truly having at least one somebody in our life, whether we recognized it or saw it or not, like somebody has believed in you, in me, in all y'all who were watching. Somebody has believed in you. How do we tune that in? What's the action we take, Lisa, to tune into that, to bolster our why, our purpose, our vision? Tell me a little bit about that.
For me, the big difference was not basing how I feel about myself or the success. Success is another. What success means to me might be different than what success means to you.
Yes.
It had nothing to do with whether this person approved of me and they liked me, or this person spoke kind to me or they didn't.
Right.
It was, how do I feel about the action that I'm taking?
Right.
What in my body does this make me feel? Like yesterday, Eric, my husband and I were rocking it out with Key Masters and strategy.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing.
And when she talked about her actions that she wants to take, and her vision, her eyes lit up, her face lit up.
Eric totally called me out. It's like, your voice gets larger, your eyes come out of your head, and you're like, whoa!
That's how you know it's the right thing. That's how you know it's the action you're supposed to take. You become like a kid again. You become alive. You get awake. You get lit up. And for some people, that's different. Like, Eric's lit up. He's like, the nod. The nod.
He's smooth. Right.
Our lit up is like, whoa. But it's an internal feeling that you get. And nobody can shake that from you. Whether someone comes in and says, that's the stupidest idea I've ever heard in my life.
Right.
Or, that's the best idea I've ever heard in my life. You know how you feel
yes.
about it.
Yes. So recognize that, acknowledge that. I know that one of your primary teachers right now, Bo Eason, he's somebody who I've trained under as well. I remember him talking about, if you love your story the most and you crack yourself up, you get into your story the most, like, that's a version of your why. Because It's not about comfort, for the record. It's never about comfort, my friends. It's about an ease of self. It's about putting your stake in your own personal pile of cement and saying, dang it, I love this. This is where I stand, and this is unshakable. And Bo tells a story about loving telling your own story, and you're the one cracking yourself up. And so the other people who are listening to your story, if it's a funny story, they might be laughing, but really they're laughing because you are so infected with your own why. It means so much to you. And they're laughing because you're in such a state of joy. You're in that hum, as Shonda Rhimes calls it. Oh, yeah. That action of manifesting your why, just like you're talking about, LP. What's your tell, so to speak, right? When do you catch yourself in the best possible ways being your most magic? When we were on that strategy call yesterday, I didn't know how you and Eric do this. And like, okay, so what is this? You and I have known each other for a while now, and I'm still like, every time we talk, we learn something about each other, and listening and getting to know him more, seeing what is his action that he takes, and he asks great questions. They're really like, okay. So note to self: anybody who's tuned into the Not So Secret Ingredient Show, should you choose to talk with Lisa and Eric, and it's totally no strings. It's qualified. There's no strings. And Eric's questions will help you really re-examine, like hold up the mirror and say, oh, is that what I'm really looking at? Or is that just the story I'm telling myself? Is that, wait a minute, is that the same story? Huh, that's interesting. So which one do I take action on? Since that's our topic today, action towards your building your life and your business. What is that? And how do you delineate? So we're coming.
There's a few ways.
Please tell us. Oh, strategy sensei. Sensei? I don't know if that's the right word, but it sounds good.
Sensei. She's making up
Sensei.
shit for me left, right, center.
That's right. Kind of like short for sensational, I'll call it.
She's on a roll. Put the tea down, Johnson.
Oh,
Put the tea down.
okay, step away. I'll go back to the raspberries.
So I always go with two things: my head and my heart. What is my heart telling me about this? Because sometimes logically, it makes absolutely no effing sense. You are the most unreasonable person in the whole entire world to want that, to believe in that, to go after that. But your heart just goes, I gotta. Like your heart just physically goes, and then your feet and your head follow. Right?
It's like dating. We've both done this. It's like dating. Dating is a perfect analogy. Like, oh, but I just want it so bad. So you let yourself go there against sometimes your better judgment, sometimes with your better judgment. You're like, oh yeah, this is a good fit. But sometimes it's not. So your heart, when people say heart smart, that's different than being smart with your heart.
Yes. And sometimes it's the opposite. Sometimes your head goes, oh yeah, baby. Oh yeah. And then something just in your gut. It's like your gut in your heart, something below the neck happened.
Right. Like below here and above here.
Yeah. Or sometimes even below the bed, because that is where creativity births, I tell you. Below there just goes, but our head goes, oh yeah, I want that. That's mine.
Right.
I need that.
Right.
And we completely disregard what goes on. We're disconnected.
Right.
Only operating from here. So I go with the heart first.
Do you?
Because as a nurse, I've been taught that my gut and my heart never have led me astray. My gut has always been right.
Interesting.
And then I go to my head. Because sometimes, for an example, taking on the wrong client, I've been there. They're willing to pay you
what you're asking, right?
Stupid amounts of money. And your head's like, take the money. You could do so much with this. You could reinvest in yourself. You could renovate your house. You could da-da-da-da. But your gut is like, you are going to lose your mind
Right.
This person is going to suck your joy and your energy.
And you're the one in command of that choice. So the action, which is our word today for business strategy for the Not So Secret Ingredient Business Show, action is the word. How do we learn to, Lisa, how do we learn to fully acknowledge and hear that voice and then consciously say, okay, pause. What's really going on here? How do you do that? What's the action that happens? And making sure all y'all, thanks for being here. Like, how do we manifest that? And manifestation simply is action. It's not woo-woo. It's like when something manifests, it comes to life. How do we recognize that feeling? And then what do we act on? How do we act to make sure we try to make our best decision?
Yeah, and then for me, after head and heart, it comes to I journal and I write. I'm very visual. So I'll write, I'll draw, I'll like hit keys on the piano, I'll get in the garden. Again, I'll get on my Peloton bike and I'll ride. My best decision making of what I should do comes from doing, from action. Now, other people need to get real still in meditation, by the water, whatever that is. For me, it's moving. Right. And then I start to think about the impact.
Right. If you're watching right now, let us know what you do to help yourself sort out and move forward in some way. Go ahead and put it in the comments wherever you're at, Facebook or Instagram or YouTube. That's where we're airing these live each week at 7 a.m. Pacific or Western time, as I've now called it, and 10 a.m. Eastern. Tell us what moves you towards progress. LP, I'm the same way in the fact that, well, I'm a mix. We're all hybrids, right? Like, let's not choose one delineator. I know our brother from another is paying attention today. And I know I think that he would feel the same way too. Jody, I know you're here. Thank you so much. Appy, what is it that you need to do for yourself? And doing is an interesting thing. We're human beings, not doing. So whatever. But what is it that works for you to make sure you keep moving forward, which is part of action? And for the record, my friends, hear me. I love you. Hear me. Size of action is irrelevant. As long as you are taking action. LP, you're shaking your head like you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah. We clip ourselves off before we've even got started. Because we're like, oh, I only got one person. These expectations that we set out about how things are supposed to be.
Right. Get rid of the limiters.
Clipping yourself, because when you hang just a little bit longer, you hang longer, it only gets better. The problem is you quit too soon because you have this expectation of whatever it is you wanted was supposed to look like. Right.
And yes, and we talked about this earlier in the show, and let's wrap up the show with this today, Lisa. Our topic today on the Not So Secret Ingredient Business Show is action. How do we do it? What do we listen to? How do we pay attention to ourselves, our head, our heart, our guts? How do we do that? Then what do we do? Because as a strategist, Lisa, you know this. Like, you can talk theory all day long, but unless you actually put it into action steps, think of it as your roadmap. You're getting in the boat and going down the river of your life, your business, whatever it is for you. I know for both of us, our life is our business because we love how we serve, and that happens to be what we do. So let's tie this together. Expectations or agreements. Let's go with agreement. That's another A word, right? Like, make an agreement with yourself that you're going to do this thing, that you're going to pay attention, that you're going to take action. An expectation can put the wrong kind of pressure on you. That leads to the false notion of failure. Failure is non-existent. Unless you don't try, there is no failure. Bring us on home, LP. Leave us with some three nuggets of action, because I know it's one of your core words, and because it means something, you practice it. So bring us on home. Tell us 3 pieces to think about when we're thinking about action to move our lives, business, all our efforts forward.
Number 1, ask the question, what do you want? I think I said this last time. I don't remember. I'm still vibing on this, but what do you want? Not what you have to have, what you need. That's that place of need is a needy energy that nobody wants
Ooh, needy energy. No.
No,
Okay.
no, thank you. We don't ever want to date a needy person. We don't ever want to be friends with a needy friend.
Right.
Because there's no joy back at you. You're just giving away pieces of yourself.
Right. So that's
Not
number one.
I need to make 10K this month. I want to serve the hell out of people this month with my gifts. And
Right.
if 10K comes to me, beautiful.
Right.
I'll take whatever comes to me. What do you want?
Right. So that's number one from action. Number two.
Number two, move.
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 Here they come again.
Wake yourself up. However you do that, wake yourself up and be fully present. A lot of times we F stuff up because we're worrying about, do I look stupid? Is someone judging me? Should I have done this? Shouldn't I have done this?
Right.
Wake yourself up. Ground yourself.
Right.
I need to step on a rock and step on a ball and get my foot Botox back, right?
Yeah.
Put your feet in the grass. Run a marathon. Like, I don't know. Do whatever wakes you up and makes
Right.
you alive.
Right. So,
Wake yourself up and get yourself present.
right. So number one for action today is ask yourself, what do you want? Number two is move. And I'm gonna amend this, like move so you are present, whatever that movement is. And so number three, what's the gem, the third gem today for the Not So Secret Ingredient Show, Lisa?
I don't care what you do once. I care what you consistently
Ooh.
do.
Consistency.
Do it over and over and over and over again until you decide, damn, I'm pretty good at this.
Right.
And I'm getting some good response. I'm so glad I did that. Or, you know what, I think I found a better way. I think I found a different way I need to go. You only know that through consistently doing it. So do it over and over and over and over again. And the next right move, the next right person, the next right thing will
Right.
appear. You don't have to have it all figured out. You just need to do it.
Right.
And the right thing shows itself to you.
Right. Such a good secret ingredient. Make it a not so secret ingredient for yourself, my friends. Lisa Pizik, business strategist, myself, Ginger Johnson, human connection expert. We're so glad you're here along for the ride. Join us again next Thursday, every Thursday, 10 a.m. Pacific time, 7 a.m. Western time, Atlantic time. No, you're Atlantic time.
I'm Eastern.
Oh, they use that?
Today,
Yeah.
Eastern.
Eastern. Okay. Anyway, get the details at least. Well, we'll keep you posted. We talked about action today. The three steps one last time as we sign off. Here's what you can do with action today. Ask yourself, what do you want? Move to be present. Just get in motion. And be consistent. Consistency is queen, my friends. You're rocking yourself, rocking your life. LP, let's sign off and see you next week, eh?
Sounds good. Thank you.
All right. Bye, everybody.